this is a bomb. I mean, this is less than 5 million.
Yeah, that's
and
bad.
this thing has been in development since, oh God, almost 10 years, more than 10 years.
Really?
Yes, since 2014. 2014, am I wrong? Correct me if I'm wrong. The chat is always right. What are your thoughts on The Crow? How many of you actually saw it? I did.
I saw it Saturday.
It prompted me, and I saw your review, Dante. It prompted me to just watch the original, and I forgot it's kind of sort of a 90s classic.
Yeah.
Look, there was a way to do this movie right. And like I said in my review, I think it probably would have been a different movie altogether if it wasn't Eric Draven, if it was just a different character altogether. And the problem is when you use Eric Draven, you're automatically going to think of Brandon Lee, and then you're automatically going to think about that movie, and then you're going to start comparing that movie to this, and that's where it all falls apart.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
The Crow, the original 30-year-old Crow from 94 is a fairy tale. It's a dark, gothic, violent fairy tale, but it has a lyrical quality to it that goth culture itself has, and goth punk, call it what you want. But the thing about Eric and Shelley in The Crow is they represent purity. You know, Draven might have been a rock guitarist in a band, and Shelley was who she is, but their love was pure. And if the Detroit that they lived in was on the very edge of, let's call it hell, they represented love and purity and innocence. And the love and the purity and the innocence that was taken from them was a transgression. And that's what allowed the Crow to take Eric's soul back a year later from the underworld to exact his vengeance. And what you see is that, first of all, you have Sarah and her mother, Darla, and Sarah is narrating the story, a young child who was friends of Shelley and Eric. And even Ernie Hudson's cop character has been haunted by this horrible crime, the rape and murder of Shelley and the murder of Eric. And they too exist. They are innocent souls that exist in this sort of, call it a nether world. And the way the whole thing is shot, and they use miniatures to establish the cityscape, not unlike what they did in Blade Runner. And Michael Wincott as this villain with a sorceress companion, you know, smelling eyeballs, and I like the pretty eyes, and they're like having their fatal sexual ways with whomever they bring up into their loft. I mean, there's so much going on in that movie that works. And it is a frothy, heady mix of genres. But at the end of the day, it is a fairy tale. And it is about goodness prevailing. And the thing about this new Crow, you're watching these two assholes. and I mean, they're assholes. They meet in rehab. You know, they're not, there is no purity of soul with them. There is no true love. You know, they take a bunch of drugs, they hang out for a week, they fuck, and it's like, okay, you're supposed to, you believe in Eric and Shelley because they're shown, and yes, their relationship is established in very quick flashbacks and in almost like mood boards of what they did, but you can tell, and when Eric comes back, he still has his humanity. He knows what it looks like that he's come back from the grave when he talks to Ernie Hudson. When he goes, one of the classic scenes in The Crow that anybody can remember is when Eric confronts Sarah's mother, Darla, and removes the morphine from her body. And he quotes William Makepeace Thackeray and says, "God is the name, a mother is the name of God on the lips and hearts of all children." I mean, it's that movie, that scene is classic. And anybody who collected goth albums, whether it was Bauhaus or Christian Death before they changed their lineup, or The Damned, I don't know, whoever, this movie is the Blade Runner of it. It is just the way that Bauhaus's Bela Lugosi's Dead is the Stairway to Heaven of goth. I mean, this movie it represents so much more than just a film. And it is the culmination of a school of thought. And that's why people love it so much.
And there's so many
And the music, all the original music that was written for The Crow, both Graham Revell's amazingly romantic and gothic score, and then all the music from everybody from The Cure to what is it, My Life with the Thrill,
9 Inch Nails, Stone Temple Pilots. Incredible soundtrack.
Incredible. So, and that's a movie that has 2 soundtracks: the score and the music. Sorry, I didn't mean to go off there.
And Rob, don't forget Bailing.
Oh, that's why she likes the pretty eyes.
She's amazing in the film. I don't know. I think she's amazing.
So both movies open with the classic line. People once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. But sometimes something so bad happens that a terrible sadness is carried with it and the soul can't rest. The problem is the current movie couldn't live up to that line.
Right.
Especially the way the original did.
And it was delivered by a dude as opposed to a child, which immediately tells you this is a fairy tale that we're watching.
Yeah.
Not so much with the new movie. There is no Sarah and Darla.
Yeah. Did you also notice that 80% of this movie was shot in daylight? And that the first animal you see in the movie is a horse? I mean,
yes,
of course. I mean, to me, the movie is just a failure in tone. They couldn't capture a tone strong enough to live up to the Crow, and even to the opening line. It's for some reason I think Hollywood has gotten to this point where you can't go as dark anymore as you did in the 80s and the 90s.
Oh, that's for sure, man. Yeah, that's
for
sure.
And films today suffer because of it, because we're holding back. We're holding back our punches when we need to throw those punches all the way through.
So, my thing, again, I feel like if they went with a different character altogether, maybe that could have worked. Because here's the thing, if I'm being honest, for me, I'm watching this film and I'm thinking there's glimpses of a good movie in there somewhere. They're like, if I would have got a hold of that movie, there are flashes of good things in there, man, but they're just weighed down by the fact that this wasn't The Crow. What we were watching wasn't The Crow. It could have been The Crow, but it wasn't.
Yeah. So let me ask this, Dante, because I didn't see the movie. If you had no prior knowledge of The Crow, would this movie hit differently, or would it still be as bad as everybody's saying it is?
No, it would still be bad, just on the level of they try to explain too much, and when a movie does that, it kind of loses its punch. Mm-hmm. And you look, if you're going into it expecting a bunch of violence, sure, there's violence. He kills a bunch of people. If that's what you want, then you're going to leave with that.
Yeah, it takes.
But you're expecting like just a good story. It's not there.
And it takes this movie 40 minutes to get to where the original movie starts.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
By the way, it's somebody in the chat, Tom Siebert, has disagreed with me and said that The Cure's Disintegration is the Stairway to Heaven of Goth. No. Disintegration didn't come out until 1989. It is not the Stairway to Heaven of Goth. Disintegration is The Cure's best album, though. I'll give you that.
Fair.
And I love that record.
So it failed on so many levels. I was so upset by the film. I had to come home and I actually bought. It was on sale. I bought on Vudu for $5 the 4K digital of The Crow and forgot how good that film is. The city of Detroit, which I can confirm is as bad as portrayed in the film, with all the Detroit like Devil's Night fires. That's a real thing in Detroit on October 30th, Halloween Eve. People set fires. There's hundreds. People come from all over the world to cover this news event. So the city itself is practically a character. It feels like, in some ways, like a Batman movie in some sense, right?
Yeah.
The way Brandon Lee, those lines are so poetic that he's saying it just, look, I don't think it's a perfect film, the original Crow, but for a low budget of its era film, it was so great. And also the weight of the fact that going into that movie, knowing that Brandon Lee had died is tragic. It adds a whole other layer to the experience of the film at the time. Was like you're literally watching the performance of a ghost, right? In some sense, which gives gives it some more weight. So I think this is one of the worst remakes of all time. The only thing, it had one scene, the opera scene at the end, is like, oh, that's kind of creative. And I think Bill Skarsgård, you know, he did his job with a horrible script and a misguided director that didn't understand the appeal of the original.
I actually want to piggyback off something Alan said, right? I think the biggest thing that was missing in this movie was the fact that in the original, they died so gruesomely, right? Eric had to watch not only his woman die, but be sexually assaulted, man. And that visceral feeling, kind of like when you're watching Straw Dogs, right? And Dustin Hoffman has to watch his woman get, you know, it's that visceral thing. So when Eric comes back, you want him to destroy these people, not just kill them. You want him to like rip them apart, right? Because of what they did to his woman. And you don't really get that feeling when you're watching this film. You know, you don't, like, you can care less in a way if he gets his revenge or not. Because the character doesn't even seem like he wants his revenge half the time.
Well, and also the Danny Houston character, because the villains have links to the supernatural, like literally working for the devil, it's almost as if their agency, you know, the thing about the villains in the original Crow, they're human beings. They deserve what they're going to get. And the fact that that in the new movie somebody's working for the devil, it almost takes the onus off humanity to be responsible for the evil that it does. Oh, it was the devil the whole time. And it's like, why would you, having the devil in this movie brings a whole, and this character of Kronos brings a whole layer of supernatural to it that doesn't work. Only Eric Draven gets to be supernatural in this. You know, you can't, when you start adding layers, it changes the fundamental meaning of the story. And I really objected to that. I thought that just goes hand in hand with the lazy screenwriting. I mean, the script for this movie was abysmal. I hated it.
Yeah, I really hated everything about this. The fact that it didn't have the weight. I feel like they feared in present day, that opening scene from the original Crow, 1994. Could you do a scene like that today in a film? I don't know. I mean, we just saw last week Blink Twice, which has a big trigger warning at the beginning about, you know, SA, right? So I don't know if you can if you can even talk about these kind of issues.